Hi there. This week, Tom Ackley sent me this fridge magnet. It's got his cute little face on it, and it alludes to his website. Tom is the guy who sent me the abrasive paste and the polishing paste to review and try out. I quite like them, and I'll put a link to his website where you can purchase that or find out about it if you like in the description box down below this video. Now, today's project is this bowl. This is another hard, dry piece of wood from Africa. It's called Gombe, and I made it not exactly the same but similar to the Movingui Bowl that I did in my last video. A nice wood to work with, but difficult. Gave me some problems. I'm sure you don't want to hear about those twice, so why don't we go ahead and take a look at what I went through to come up with this bowl. Hi there. The last piece I turned was this shallow bowl of Movingui. It was a really tough turn, but I've spoken to a friend who's also turned this wood, and he said it turned beautifully. So I think the problem is not the wood itself, but just the fact that this particular piece was so incredibly dry. So I went back to Windsor Plywood where I got this to see if there were some other woods that I hadn't seen before. And there's another one right here called Gombe, another African wood. And I want to see how it turns in comparison to what this was like. So I'm going to prepare it exactly the same way I did this. I won't bother showing you that. If you want to see how I put this together to turn it, you can take a look at that video, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below this video. But I'm going to get this one ready to go, put it on the faceplate, used as a glue block again, and then you can just join me at the lathe. One of the differences between the Movingui that I did the other bowl with and this Gombe is that, at least on this particular board, it's not all straight grained. So the joint is not hidden like it was on the Movingui. You can barely tell it's there, if at all. Now I'm going to make a recess for my chuck. I'm going to use my calipers set to half the diameter of the chuck, putting the right leg into the center, and then when it turns, the left leg will be scribing it. And you do not want to reverse that, because if you do, it's going to catch and you could have some serious consequences. Alright, we'll use a parting tool to define this edge and then clean it out with the square edge scraper. That should be just perfect. Cleans up fairly nicely in there. Now I'm going to define the size of the foot I want. I'm not trying to make the two bowls exactly the same, so I'll just guesstimate right there. I'll define it with the parting tool and then start to turn. And someone said they didn't like the way I trued off the outside before I turned the rest of it. It's a waste of time. Well, I have time. I'm just an amateur, just a hobbyist, but this time I'll do it without doing that. As usual with dry wood, that dust and shavings is coming off there very hot, so I'm going to go find a glove. This is extremely dry again, just like the Movingui was. A little tough to turn, but I'll keep at it, and I may end up going with the scraper. Okay, that's cutting better. A little gouge sharpening never really hurts. All right, I think I'm to the point where I can just sand this now. After sanding the bottom of the bowl, I drilled the recess for my logo coin. Then I carved some rings for decoration, used my pyrography pen to put my name, species of the wood, and the date on the bottom. And after putting on finish, I glued in my logo coin. I will explain the finish I used when I do the top of the bowl. I use a one-way live center, and this is the one-way live center adapter. It has the male threads to match those of the spindle. In my case, 1 1/4 inch by 8 threads per inch. So I can thread that into this faceplate I made. And now I can bring up my live center with the pin in it so that it won't turn, and while pushing forward I can spin the live center into that adapter. Now when I take this out, the whole thing will spin, and it's being supported by this adapter so that when this hot glue comes off, it's not going to fall away, it'll just hang there in midair. When I did my last video, I used isopropyl alcohol to remove the glue, and someone told me that I could do it by using my parting tool. While I knew that, I've done it before, I just like to show different ways of doing things. So now I'm going to use the parting tool to remove this. When I remove hot glue this way, I like to make sure my bench is clean because I always recycle all the sawdust and shavings. I don't want this glue mixed up in it. So now I'm going to see if this is loose enough to come off of there. Yep, it's peeling right off of it. All right, I'm going to get this out of the way, take this off, and I can start turning the top of the bowl. This wood, once again, is incredibly dry. I'm going to end up here with a scraper again, I'm sure. Actually, if this is going to need a scraper, why not just get the scraper out? I have sanded this and sanded it and sanded it, and I still cannot get rid of two spots. I don't know if they're going to show up on the camera, but there's one right there and another one opposite right there. And it's like an abrasion, a bruise into the wood, and it just will not come out. If I kept going, maybe at 400 or 600, I'd finally get it out of there, but I'd be looking at hours of sanding. So I'm going to make this a real test for Tom Ackley's abrasive paste. I've sanded it to 240 grit. Now I'm going to put on 2 coats of sanding sealer. My new sanding sealer is 50-50 mixture of Zinsser Seal Coat and Everclear, which is an ethanol. I'll put those 2 coats on, sanding after each one, and then I'm going to use Tom's paste to see if I can get this off of here. So I'll put on this sanding sealer. Although this sanding sealer should be not as toxic at all as what I had been using, I'm still going to wear rubber gloves. I always do. I prefer not having things soak into my skin. So let me put this on. As I said, I'll sand after each coat. Then I'll come back and we'll do the abrasive paste. Alright, I'll just let it spin there and dry for a few minutes. I'll be back after the sanding of the 2 coats is finished. Alright, I'm ready to try Tom's abrasive sanding paste now. And I'm going to be really surprised if it actually takes that little bit of a bruise out. It's not that bad. I know most people wouldn't care, but I guess I'm a bit of a fanatic. So I'm going to just put this on, rub it into the wood real good. And then I'm going to turn this up to 1000 RPM and see how it does, taking out that little bit of a blemish. Now I had a very little bit of the sanding sealer go over the edge, so I'm just going to use what's on the cloth and buff that up a little bit too. I can just barely see that they are still there, but I'm very impressed with how well that took that off. I doubt that anybody else would even really notice that. Now I'm going to go on and do the polish. That is looking good. I'm very pleased with that. Alright, I'll take it off now and take a close look at this. And then I uploaded the video to the computer and found out this wasn't as good as I thought it looked. Somehow, looking down at it like this, the angle of the light did not show up the abrasion quite as well as I wish it had. When I looked at the video, it was very obvious it wasn't good. So, I took it back, put it on the lathe, and sanded again. And trust me, sanding off that polish and then getting down to the sanding sealer that was in the grooves, in the grain, made it a very difficult proposition. I went back to 150 grit and I sanded enough that I've actually got a bit of a depression in here. It's almost like a little trench running around there. When I saw that, at first I thought, well, I'll get the scraper out and level this out again. But the more I looked at it, the more I like it. So I did the sanding sealer, the abrasive paste, and the polish again. And now I am really happy with this, and she who must be obeyed is happy. So that's a good thing. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed at least some of this, and I hope you'll come back next time. In the meantime, have a great day in your shop. Be safe. If you like this, please click the like button so I know you like it. Feel free to share it with your friends if you like, and don't forget to subscribe. Hope you'll drop into my shop next time. Take care now.